Yeah, my Chamberlain garage door opener broke its gear. As you can see over here, the end of the gear compared to the newer one um, is showing the difference of the gear that broke off here. So what I did is I ordered this particular device or part number, and I'm going to show you how to take this new gear assembly and install it inside your Chamberlain box. So what I had to do is I had to unbolt some of the bolts holding up the unit up on the garage ceiling, and once I lowered the whole unit down just from the back end, leaving the garage door connected to the front part of the garage, I was able to unbolt these two bolts here that holds the where the chain bar hooks up. Then I also disconnected the couple wires up here that were going to the sensors and the push button to open the door and close the door. So I was able to get the whole unit off of the ceiling. From there, there's two screws in this plastic piece on the top, so I was able to remove that off. As you can see, I already removed the old piece. The new piece basically is going to fit in here, and we'll show you what that looks like on the inside. But that's already been removed. And let's see here. In order to take the motor out, there's a screw on the left and the right on the back side of the unit, and then same way on the front side of the unit. You got left and right screws, and then you also have screws on the sides, two screws right here and here. Once you get all those screws off, you don't need to take any other screws out of there. You can then lift out the metal piece and with the motor on it, and pull that out. Let me see if I can set that down here without having it fall. So here's what the motor looks like, and right there is where the old gear went inside that big circle. When taking this out, you will also have to unplug these two control connectors off of the back of the RF or and controller circuit board. Also, to let you know, is this particular large capacitor can store quite a bit of charge on it, so you don't want to be touching anything associated with that. And in some cases, you can, once the AC power is no longer plugged in, you can take a screwdriver between those two gold terminals there and short them out to empty the energy out of the capacitor. And then I also removed these two light bulb wires on the front, which were down on these two spades. So after taking all those electrical connections off, you can take this whole metal base unit and pull it out, and then around the gears there's I think there's 4 screws that you take out, and then once you take that out, then you can pull this unit basically out of the top and get that out. Another item that I had to do is on this particular shaft, to get this little mini gear off the unit. This little plastic piece here needs to be separated on both the right and left sides. It's hard to do with me holding the camera here. Let me see if I can move the two sides. Okay, so basically got those two sides, and the little plastic piece pops out, and then the little gear piece can come off. And as you can see, there's like a little hole through the shaft right there. So basically, after taking that piece off, this whole assembly can be slid out of the unit. But when putting it back together, you just do the reverse order and get this gear in like so, find the hole, and then put the pin back in there. So I've already greased up the gears on this unit here and here. When putting that back together, I will already have that done. Here's the grease that goes on the plastic gears to keep everything lubricated. So let me see about getting this gear piece back in, and we'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so basically I just put in the gear from the bottom side, and this shaft right here came up through this little bearing piece, and now I can get this this little worm gear here and put it on, line it up with the hole in the shaft, and what I'm going to do is I put this plastic keeper on there, and then it's basically going to snap in there. Let's see here. Okay. Also, when screwing on the bottom metal piece, make sure that the holes here, and around the other side are all lining up. As you spin the upper piece in a circle, you'll see that the holes will eventually line up, and there's only one orientation that's going to allow everything to work correctly. So after you find the correct matchup, you can start to put the bolts back in from the bottom side to hold the gear unit in place. So let me get those bolts in there, and we'll move on to the next step. Yeah, I'm putting these bolts back in here. Basically, we got an 8mm wrench here, so just screwing that in. There's 3 bolts that hold the gear system in. So I'm going to tighten up these 2, and then there's one more right there that I have to get in with a little wrench, open end wrench. Yeah, to get that last bolt down here, I was just using something like this, 8mm. So basically, those 3 nuts are nice and snug at this point. So we're going to start reassembling the motor into the chassis again. Okay, basically you can see, I put the grease on the. Oh, this is actually the old worm gear. I didn't go in and replace that one, but I just did the one that broke. That was going basically up and down here, and then on the finish assembly up here, this is where those 3 bolts that I just screwed in here, and then this little gear unit right here is the one that broke off on mine. So with the whole new assembly here, that should hook up to the chain again. And then here's the inner guts of the metal work. And then what we're going to do is connect up these 2 light bulb spades here, and we're going to connect up the connector here and here, and put the bolts on the sides here, here, and here, and tighten up these bolts. They'd be on the side here, 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 and there. Alright, I don't know if you can see, yeah, down here I put the connectors in there, so those are there. And let's see if I can show you down here. I don't know if you probably can't see down there, but that's where the light bulb is hooking up. And it looks like you can only hook them on one way because the size differences of the slugs allow you to plug them in correctly. Now I just slid this back in the box, and you can see these bolts here and here, these screws are fitting nicely, and then I need to put these other screws in here. But Chamberlain did a great job with making this assembly to pop right out without having to take off too many screws, and then keeping the bottom piece still intact. And so makes it very quick to pull the guts out. Okay, on the perimeter I got all the bolts tightened down, and so the last piece that I need to work on is getting this little plastic chain protector guidance system in place. And there's basically, if you can see down there, there's 2 screw holes. So I'm just going to drop those 2 screws in there and align the 2 screws up so they go into the screw hole. So we'll get that done. These last screws sticking out of the bottom of this plastic piece are a little difficult to align with the holes. So I got a pair of tweezers there, just dropped them in there. So basically I'm just going to screw those in right here with my screwdriver while I'm holding in the air, and the screws will align up to the holes perfectly. Alright, there's the final assembly. So I'm ready to put that back up in the garage now. So this right here is the chain bar that goes up in the air, and then there's the 2 bolts that connect down to the control opener box. So I'll be hooking those bolts up next. When putting the chain back on the gear, I wasn't able to get the bar on first because I want to make sure the chain's going in the teeth. What I'm going to do now is just kind of like turn the box counterclockwise and then bolt the bar back to the top of the unit here with the chain on. So that should go back together fairly decently. Also, when you're putting that bar back on, you might want to have the lock unlocked so you have a little bit of freedom to move the chain around. That might be helpful. I'm having a little difficulty getting the bar connected up with the base unit, so I'm going to loosen up these bolts right here and give the chain about a 1/2 inch of extra clearance. That should help me get the bolts in. Well, when I hooked the unit up, the opener box was in the middle of an open close, so it got confused to what it should be doing. So what I did is I popped the chain off here so it's not connected to the gear system, and then I hit the open and close button, and if you do that, you'll see that the gear will turn counterclockwise for 20-30 seconds, shut off, and if you push the button again, then it goes clockwise for 20 seconds or 30 seconds, and it shuts off. So with the door closed, basically I want the gear system to be opening the door. So that's what I configured the up-down setting to be. Basically, I pushed the button and let it turn until I figured out which direction I wanted to go. So I believe to go up, I'm going to go counterclockwise. So we're set to put the chain back on with that gear ready to spin counterclockwise on the next button push. As you can see, I've got the bolt all the way to the end to loosen up the chain, so it gives me the best chance to pull that chain off the gear so I can have the gear spin freely without trying to pull the door up and down. So now that I've got the gear positioned to go counterclockwise, I'm going to tighten up the chain now, put the chain back on the gear, and I'm going to tighten that up and see if she opens up this time.